Good afternoon, Ray. Thank you so much for joining us today to share your insight and advice about data science careers. Can you please start by doing a little bit introduction, your professional background, your organization, and your role in Sandag?
Sure, Alex, I'd love to. My name is Ray Major. I'm the Chief Economist and the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Sandag, which is the San Diego Association of Governments. Our agency is responsible for building all of the infrastructure in the region that you use every day, things like the roads and the trolleys and whatnot. So we do a tremendous amount of data analytics here. We're building out a data analytics team as we speak. Professionally, I have a graduate degree in economics from San Diego State University, along with my undergraduate degree. And I've worked for about 30 years in private sector doing data and data analytics at companies like Equifax and Nielsen, for instance, which are both very large users of data. So I have about a 30-year career in data science. And currently what I'm doing is really taking the information, is taking what I learned in private industry and bringing it back to the public sector so that our elected officials can make better decisions using data science as the foundation for those decisions.
Thank you. So what does a successful data science or data analytics person look like in your organization? And what are some of the important traits or skill you find most valuable?
Well, that's a good question. So to be a successful data scientist, you really need to be inquisitive and I think very interested in the subject matter or the topic that you're working in. So for instance, if I had, if somebody asked me what type of job should I apply for with a data science degree, I would really say, well, what are you interested in? If you're interested in biotechnology or drone technology or pharmaceuticals or government, that's kind of the first decision that you should really make. Because if you're not interested in the problem domain, you're not going to be a really good data scientist. And the reason I say that is that most of data science, I should say, is not about the technical skills of being able to use R or SQL to get data and pulling the information together or even doing any of the analytics. It's really the interpretation of the results. That's really where the value is, because just processing the data means nothing. Knowing how to interpret it and apply it to your problem domain is probably the most important thing in data science, and it's the thing that's missing the most in terms of the data scientists that we look at when we hire them. Technically, they're very good with their skill set, but then my question is, what is your interest in whatever the topic is that you're working in? Let's see, some of the important traits, I think, in terms of skill, obviously, so skills and traits. In terms of skills, the analytics that you would do, being able to get to the data using different tools right now, things like SQL and R, those are the ones that in Python, that's what people are currently using, but that changes all the time. 5 years from now, those tools are going to be completely different. So data scientists is going to need to stay up to speed with those type of tools for processing data. But again, I think that some of the more important traits are really understanding the interpretation of the data. I'm gonna leave it at that, because to me that's the biggest thing. If you give me a number as a data scientist, you give me, here, look, I made a graph, and my answer is, so what? So what does it mean? How do I interpret this? How do I make a better decision based upon it? And so the person who can answer that question is one that really separates themselves from the masses.
Okay, so not only the analytical skill, but also understand the context of the data.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. For current students and the job seekers, how to stand out as a job candidate for data science related positions?
So I think that one important thing to remember here is that all of your resumes look exactly the same to us, because everybody has nearly the same education in terms of the classes that they've taken. Doesn't matter what university you come from, everybody has some experience doing Python, some experience doing R, some experience doing SQL. And if your resume is full of that, you look like everybody else, okay? And I've had problems hiring people right out of college because what they don't do on their resume is really help me understand what you how you've used those tools and what you've actually analyzed and what the results were. As a hiring manager, I realized that you don't have the uh, the experience and depth of skill to be doing projects on your own, for instance. What I'm doing is I want to hire somebody for my team who I can add to my team and teach them. But what I really want to be able to see, if I'm asking for somebody with a specific skill set, for instance, I recently had a job opportunity for somebody who did data visualization. Okay, so and it has to do with the fact that we needed data scientists on that end of the spectrum, not on cleaning the data or big data analytics, but on the visualization. So just to tell me that you took a visualization class doesn't allow me to see what skills you have, because every data science student has taken a visualization class. Show me examples of what you can do in visualization so I can see if it's the type of visualizations that I need. Did you build a dashboard? Did you do analysis? Did you do some kind of interactive tool? What are you doing? Bar charts? Are you doing scattergrams? What is it that you do in terms of visualization, if that's the field you want to go into? So when you see a job application, don't just send your stock standard resume. If you are truly interested in that position, customize it so that it's answering the questions that the hiring company is looking for. That would be my biggest suggestion, because when I get 100 or 200 resumes and they all look alike, the only thing that differentiates them are the people who actually are talking about exactly what I need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, if you want to differentiate yourself, that's what you should do.
Thank you. And in your organization, what does a typical hiring process look like? For example, does that involve like a technical interview, technical exam, and things like that?
So yeah, so a typical hiring process would be that we would screen your resume, we would find some candidates that we were interested in, we would do an initial phone call with them to ask them, just talk to them a little bit about the position, ask them a little bit about their background, and then if we felt that that person might be a good fit, they would come in for an in-person interview or possibly Zoom. We're kind of in this transition place right now. And then you would sit down with a panel of people who you would probably be working for, maybe some people from external departments, probably 3 or 4 people who would ask you a series of questions that you would then have to answer. The questions aren't specifically, they're not made to be tricky, not here. I know there are some companies where they want to really challenge your mind and give you very tricky questions. Ours aren't like that. We're looking to see whether or not the person will fit and whether or not the person has the background and skill set and that we need. But as importantly, it's like, are you articulate? Can you describe what you have done, if that makes sense? So practicing interviewing skills, I think, is a super important part. I know that's not part of the questions, but that would be something that I would think a lot of students, especially looking for their first job, would benefit a tremendous amount from.
Thank you. Any additional advice for students seeking data science position, and also especially for maybe students who are new to data science field, any technical or career resources that you recommend them to take advantage of?
Yeah, I guess, if you're looking for the data science position, and I guess this would just be a general comment following up on what I said for your last question, but go to the internet, download practice questions, okay? And have a friend ask you that question and try to answer it out loud. And you'll see how hard it is. It's really hard to do that type of thing on the fly, but you get better at it with practice. And I think it's very important because, especially with college students, it's very difficult for them to explain what they've done, what value they would bring to the agency, how they work with other people in groups and things like that. So when you download these questions, it'll give you an idea of that. And so, I mean, you just have to Google, 10 best interview questions for data scientists or whatever, and answer it. So I would definitely say that that's something that you should do. I think that there are a lot of groups or organizations that you can apply to, or that you can join if you're interested in furthering your data science career. But I think that the field is so hot right now that what would be more important is to get exposure or experience in the industry that you're interested in working in, because you'll find a data science position in every industry. If you want to be a data scientist and work in the retail industry, you can do it. If you want to work in the public sector, you can do it. If you want to work in the airline industry, you can do it. So what you really kind of have to think of is if I'm going to join a group, for instance, would I be better off joining a group that was industry focused versus necessarily data science focused, right? Does that make sense? Because that's where I think you're going to actually get your job.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ray.
Absolutely.
Some